I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camps RC. Hey guys, welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. I'm Justin Davis, and I got an awesome, huge, massive box here from GearBest.com this week. I got the JLB 2101 by JLB Racing. It's a 4x4 3S monster truck with a 120 amp speed controller in here. A pretty awesome and powerful little 4x4 truck, so I'm super excited about that. I actually took it out to our Airbnb cabin out in Hood River this week so I could drive it for you guys in kind of in the middle of nowhere. And it's awesome on this 3S battery and using this remote. So we'll go ahead and check out some footage. We'll bash it around, we'll see what it can do, and then we'll come back to the studio and we'll check out a little closer look of the JLB 2101.
Nice. See all the tires spin.
So the first little test run of the JLB 21101. It drives actually pretty good. It's super fast. Some of the DHK Hobby stuff that I drove earlier this year, the Optimus XL and the Zombie, they were both kind of comparable cars to this one, but this one seems to flip over just a little bit better when I do get upside down. But the tires balloon out. It has a pretty nice power system on here at 3S. It's running pretty hot on the ground, and it jumps really well. It seems to be pretty durable so far, but we'll see how that proves out in the next battery. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed that footage, and we didn't break any arms or legs filming this thing. This thing is like super fast, so we almost hit ourselves like several times, had to jump it a bunch of times, but you have to watch out for these little guys because they are ridiculously fast. Now, the JLB 2101, why it's special to me is because, yes, it does have that 120 amp speed controller right under the hood right here. I'm just going to flip it around and show you that right away because this is probably the most awesome feature about this car is the fact that it does have all this waterproof gear on here, so you can drive through mud puddles and all that stuff. But the 120 amp speed controller, that's a Hobbywing, so it's an upgraded speed controller from the other version of this one, which is the 80 amp. And why is that 120 amp speed controller important? Well, because you can use a bigger battery. You can go 4S on this car. It comes with a 3S battery, but you can drive it 4S. And 4S is just it's going to be insane on 4S. You'll probably get
and upwards of 60 miles an hour, 50 to 60 miles an hour on 4S. And a lot of this chassis inside here, by the way, is all CNC hardcore aluminum. It has sort of this plate across the middle here. All suspension in the back and front are aluminum CNC'd heavy duty parts. Really nice oil-filled shocks. You have LED lights in the very front that light up. You probably saw that in the video. And on the bottom you have a pretty nice skid plate. Just move the camera down so you guys can see that a little closer. Now this is what really takes a beating on this car, and honestly it's scratched up a lot. It did take a pretty good beating, especially jumping those hills, and that clay out there in Hood River is pretty hard, mixed up with rocks and stuff. So I brought a ton of dirt home with this, and I just took it out in the backyard and sprayed it off with a hose to clean it off. Now taking a closer look right up front, check this out. See all these wires going in here? That is to a FlySky receiver, and this is nice. This is the FS-A3, and these are all over the internet. So if you had this go bad, if you ran it through the water and somehow this shorted out, you could just pop a new one of these on there. They're very easy to find online. FlySky is a pretty standard radio protocol out there, and a pretty standard brand for some of the China cheapy stuff. Now, this is not a cheapy car, by the way. This is very high quality, and in my opinion, just as high quality as some of the $500, $600 cars that a lot of the hobby shops sell. Some people might disagree with that, but you know what? This one's doing the job, just like some of the Traxxas stuff out there. And probably breaks less as well. Now also right under that, hiding right under that, one of the best features of this car is actually this steering servo. This is actually a metal geared servo, and this is important because the gears up inside here would absolutely shear off on the first battery if they were plastic. So a lot of these companies on these larger 1/10 size cars, they'll actually put the metal geared servo in there, and that's super important. And that's a 15 kg metal geared servo. Now the other rock star in this whole operation right here is the SC8 RTR, ready to run, waterproof by Hobbywing, and this is 120 amp, which, like I was saying, is pretty awesome because we have this Dean's connector right here coming out to your battery, and we can put 4S on this setup and run this super high power if we want to. It does have a built-in fan on the top of it to cool it while you're running it, and it's also waterproof. Now in my other testing, my DHK cars, I actually had my ESC pop off the frame because I did so much bashing around, but this one actually stayed on, so they must have used some better type of sticky tape under this ESC. Also, some of the other ESCs were actually mounted further toward the rear, so that might make a difference that it's directly in the middle of the chassis. Now powering this whole four-wheel drive system over here is this JLB branded 3670 2500 kV motor, super low end. The lower the kV, obviously, the more sort of low end power we're going to get, and very, very nice motor for running this entire four-wheel drive system. It has these huge, looks like 10 gauge, 8 gauge wires coming out of here, running out to your ESC, and everything is nicely tucked in here and zip tied down so that you don't have a lot of wires floating around. So you're looking at the back of the JLB 2101, and there's something different here that wasn't on some of the DHK cars. It's a wheelie bar, and you turn this to the side, it almost looks like little miniature skateboard wheels back here. They look like they have kind of a nylon outside wheel part and a really hard industrial plastic inside here, and I'm sure there's bearings inside these, and this little sort of industrial plastic wheelie bar arms come out the back of just below this little wing right here, this little race wing. Now it's the spoiler, it seems like it held up in the crashes too. I don't have any cracks in here. It is kind of flexible, so that might actually help with it coming in for a hard impact, and there is a little bit of venting through here, so that's kind of a good design. Now we can take a little closer look at the suspension back here. Like I said, this is oil filled shocks, so they seem to be set to kind of a medium tension, and if you want to loosen those up to make them lighter and less tense, you can definitely do that. It looks like there's actually some kind of a rubber gasket over top of those, which is kind of interesting. Looks a little different than the other cars that I've seen. Now up front, this is the front suspension, and we have a pretty nice and tight suspension here for doing a lot of landing. This is going to take most of the brunt of the impact in the front of the car, so you want a really nice sturdy suspension setup in the very front, because if you don't have that, you're going to have a lot of stuff popping off up front, and especially if you hit something from the very front bumper. Now it does have kind of a squash and miniature bumper up front, but this held up in my testing, and it also has recessed LEDs inside here. You see this wire running through here, kind of comes up and powers these LEDs straight coming from your receiver. Now these tires actually did pretty well during the review. They held up, they didn't puncture, there's no holes in them, and they didn't split on the highway. A lot of times some of these like short course tires will actually split on the highway if you have too much torque, because the pavement would just rip right through some of these thinner tires. But these held up pretty well, and they look like they're JLB branded race tires. So they're gonna be better off-road tires than something for on-road, and that's kind of what these are for. They also 17mm hex right down here, this nut right here, for taking it on and off, which is pretty much standard for most RC cars at the 1/10 scale. Now, some of the other stuff that comes along with this truck is this 11.1 volt battery. This is a 3S 30C battery, and you can charge it from the charger that comes along with it. It has a little balance port right here, or you can charge it from your Dean's connector, sort of on a standalone charger. The charger that I got came with a European Union style plug, and if you go on Amazon.com, you can actually get a little converter for this. It'll convert it over to US plug, so no problem. This just plugs in the bottom right here, and this one actually looks like it will charge 2 and 3S batteries. If you upgrade to 4S, you couldn't use this charger to charge 4S, but you have to have your own additional charger for that, like a standalone charger. But this one does the job, and probably in about 2 to 3 hours that battery is going to charge up. But it does also take 100 and 240 volt power to this one, so kind of a versatile charger, and it's going to charge probably about 1 amp right there. So you're not going to charge super fast, which is good because you're not going to sort of quick charge this battery and damage it. If you overcharge, you put too many C's toward it, if you put too many volts toward it, you'll actually damage the battery. Now, like I said, you also get a flash guide transmitter with this car, and this is a 2-channel flash guide transmitter. It takes 4 AA batteries in the bottom here, and I'd suggest putting the nickel metal batteries in this one. Do some rechargeables in that so they'll last longer. Now, there are some options up inside here. You have 3 trim buttons here for throttle trim, steering trim, and your power on and off buttons there. You've got an LED for binding up. If you need to rebind it, you can. They actually include a little bind plug. You also have steering reverse and throttle reverse right here. The wheel itself, it feels okay. It does have a little bit of a rubber exterior right here for grabbing it, but there's no rubber on the handle grip right here. So this is, I mean, this feels pretty good. This pistol grip is okay. It's not like the best transmitter in the world as far as like the exterior quality, but I think it does the job for this particular truck. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap up this review. I have the JLB 2101 sitting over here on my left, and on the right we have that DHK Zombie, and the Zombie sits just a little bit higher, but the JLB 2101 is a crazy RC truck on 3S, and with that 120 amp speed controller, you can upgrade it to 4S battery, no problem. And some of the other RC cars, if you do that, sometimes you'll strip out the drivetrain, so you have to be careful, or you'll blow out the tires, ruining them if you try to drive it on the street. But this truck, I would get this 120 amp version of this truck, because being able to do 4S on this truck, I've seen other YouTubers do it, and it's absolutely crazy on 4S. So if you get this one, grab a couple batteries. I think your drive time is going to be like 20 minutes, close to 20 minutes on either of these trucks. So like I said, the DHK Hobby Zombie sits just a little bit higher there. You can see the tires are a little taller than the JLB 2101. But like I said, this one will flip back over once you go inverted. If you kind of floor it and move the throttle steering a little bit, it'll actually sometimes flip over for you. This one, once it goes over, you're gonna have to do the walk of shame and go flip this one back over, mainly because it's got that taller truck body on there. But either of these, you can't go wrong. I'll try to put both the links down in the video description below so you guys can look at the specs and see what the current cost is. If I have a coupon for either one of these, I'll try to drop that down in the description below for you. But thanks again for watching, you guys. This has been an awesome demonstration of the JLB 2101. I like it. I think it's a pretty rad truck. So thanks again for watching. I'm Justin Davis. I'll see you on the next one.